Hey guys, today we want to break down this new update on the PSLF buyback period. And what does that mean? What months can we buy back? What's that new process? Which ones are eligible? We'll break that all down today. So thanks for joining. But if this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Michael Foley. I'm a certified financial planner and student loan professional. And I'm also the son of two doctors and really have developed Lifestyle Creep as a way to help our healthcare workers and their families to be more intentional in their finances and really find some more actionable steps to really be more intentional in all that they're doing in their finances. So really excited to dive into this with you today. So let's break it down. So what they came out with, they released this update last summer, but they never really gave us any sort of idea of how to implement that until recently here. And so I wanted to break down what this is and go from there. So typically either you have to, in order to get a qualified month for the public service loan forgiveness program, you have to be working at the right place. You got to be making a payment based off of your income and got to be on the right repayment plan, right? And if you do those two things, that gives us an eligible payment, and it gives us eligible employment if we're working at the right place. And if we can do those for 120 months or a 10-year time frame, doesn't have to be in a row, but if we can get 120 cumulatively, then all of the loans are forgiven tax-free for you. And so what happened though is sometimes we had some clients that maybe deferred throughout residency, and if they deferred throughout maybe a 3 or 4 year period of time, well, now all of those 3 or 4 years are not going to be eligible for the public service loan forgiveness because they weren't in the right repayment plan on that, right? And so what now, if you were in a period of deferment anytime after 2013, even with all the new adjustments and any of the other things that have been going on, those timeframes are still ineligible for a qualified month for the public service loan forgiveness. And so, but what this opportunity does now is says that, well, hey, if I wish I wasn't in deferment at that point, now you can actually go back and say, well, what would have my payment been at that time? And then you can just cut them a check and buy those years of credit. And so this is a huge opportunity for a lot of people who maybe you're an attending now, and maybe you're at your maybe you're in year 6, maybe been in practice for 6 years, and but maybe all of residency didn't count, and maybe you have 4 years of residency. Well, now what they can say is if you go back and you have 4 years of potential eligibility because you were in deferment, you can go back and actually request to have that bought back, and they'll give you a quote for what that would be, and then you can cut them a check. And as long as whatever we're estimating those extra months, as long as that's enough to get you over the 120th month, then they'll process that for you. But let's say you only have a couple years that we're looking to buy back, and maybe we're only in year 6 of that PSLF program. Well, they're not going to entertain that yet. So you got to wait until probably you're in your 8th year. So then when you buy back those 2 years, those 2 years will get you over the hump to the forgiveness. And so that's what we want to be looking at is anybody who is in a deferment period after 2013, that while you were also working at a qualified employer, this is who this is pertinent to. So we also had what is called the income-driven repayment plan adjustment. So that's why some of our clients, we maybe did consolidations or maybe did other things to get all of those old loans, get all the extra credit counted towards that. But even still with all of those adjustments, that's where a lot of forbearance periods are also automatically going to be counted. You don't need to go and buy those back. Any deferment periods prior to 2013, those are going to be eligible for you, so you don't need to go buy those. But the only ones that are still that we still are not able to get credit for is that deferment time between present and back to 2013. Those are really, and so if you were working at a qualified employer during that time when you were in deferment on any of those loans, that's a huge opportunity. So we got to remember though that they're still not going to count any grace period. So usually when you graduate, there's a 6-month grace period, and that's something that we're still not able to get that credit. So I wish we could, but still can't get the 6 months. We can't buy that period of time. And then anytime that you were in school and deferred, we still can't get that as well. So those are just some things that we got to be thoughtful of. So now let's talk about what is the actual process for this new reconsideration this new buyback process. So, I broke it down into five steps. Okay. So step number one is we need to certify all your eligible employment using the Public Service Loan Forgiveness tool. We call it the PSLF tool. And so that's a tool where you'll go back and report all of your employment and to say, this is where I worked. You need the EIN number and the start and end dates for all of your employment. And we need to use that system to get that in, and then you're able to e-sign that, and then you send it to someone in HR, and they need to certify that you were working there, and get all of that counted up. Okay, so that's step one. Now, step two is going to be we need to verify those months that you're actually wanting to buy back, and make sure that they overlap with qualifying employment for this, on this new PSLF tracker that they're going to be coming out with. So we need to make sure that the employment oversets periods of ineligible deferment after 2013. And make sure that they match up. And when we add them all up, we got to make sure that between what credit you already have and the credit that we are looking to add through this buyback is going to get you over the 120th month. If we're not there yet, we got to wait, or else they're going to deny your application for this buyback. So we got to wait until that point. Okay. And then, but let's say we do all that, and we do think that we would be across the finish line if we bought back some of those months. Well, now it's time for step three, and we actually submit what's called a Public Service Loan Forgiveness reconsideration application. And so this is an application that sometimes if they messed up your application or other things in the past, we use this as kind of another outlet to have them reconsider or kind of do a recount for you. But now they're using that same application to trigger this buyback process for you. And so when you use that, and we'll put a link in the show notes here for you as well to that process for the reconsideration. But we need to make sure that you include verbatim the statement that says, I have at least 120 months of approved qualifying employment, and I am seeking PSLF or TEPSLF discharge through PSLF buyback. Please assess my eligibility for PSLF buyback. End quote. So that's the exact verbiage that they need on that application. Otherwise, they're not going to know what you're doing, right? And they're not going to know what to actually do. And we might just waste time having them process this reconsideration application and not really know that you're just trying to buy that time back. Okay, so that's step three. Now, step four, within 90 days of submitting that, they're going to have to get back to you, okay? And what they're going to get back to you, and they're actually going to likely request some information for you. And so they're going to need to request income documentation and household documentation for those time frames that you were actually, what was your income at that time that we're trying to back up. So they're trying to turn back the clock and say, all right, if you had a period of deferment back in 2017, well, let's go back in time and say, well, how much money were you making at that time, and what was your household size at that time, and try to figure out, okay, what would your payment have been during that time, and then that's how they derive what your buyback period is. So to really get into the weeds on how they do that, there's two options. Okay, so the first option is if that period of deferment that we're trying to buy back is less than 1 year, and you were in an income-driven repayment plan on the right before that deferment or right after that deferment, they're going to look at those, and they're going to look at the lowest payment between the before and the after, and they're going to just use that. So let's say you were, maybe you were in an income-driven repayment plan, and before the deferment, your payment was, $100 per month, and after the deferment, it was $500 per month. Well, they're going to take that $100 per month and say during that time frame, that's what you would have had to been paying, and that's what they'll add that up for you. Now, the other alternative is if your that buyback period is more than 12 months, then that's when they actually are going to need your income documentation. So you're going to need to see what your tax return would be for that calendar year, and if it overlaps different calendar years. So a lot of our clients maybe have an academic year, so maybe that's going to split a couple. They're going to need tax documentation for both years. So that'll be something. And then you also have to look back and see what was your household size. So a lot of our clients are having kids, so maybe at that time you didn't have your kids yet, and so we'll have to disclose that as well, and they'll justify that payment for you. Okay, so that's something that they'll request all that documentation. You give that to them, and then what they're going to do is they're going to actually, step 5 is going to be they're going to send you a buyback agreement with a quote. And that quote will be whatever they justified as those time frames, what you would have been paying in that. And they say, here's your quote for the buyback. And if you pay us, $6,000, cut us a check, we'll give you credit and we'll immediately begin your forgiveness application. So this creates a great opportunity for us, because we, now, instead of waiting an extra few years, and maybe that time frame back in residency is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than as an attending now, and you're a lot higher income, a lot higher payments. So it may hurt in the short term, but may actually come out quite a ways ahead on that. So that's kind of the process. So we gotta kind of make sure that we go across our T's, dot our I's, and so we're here to help you through this process. You're not needed to do this on your own, but I just want to have you guys understand kind of the lay of the land of how to go about this and what this is going to look like. And for those of you who are not necessarily just going for public service loan forgiveness, we also want to make sure that that coming soon here, they're actually talking about doing a similar buyback program in July. They're talking about releasing this for the long-term forgiveness. And so that long-term forgiveness is going to be a huge one too, because at the end of 2025, that's potentially going to be taxable thereafter. And so if we can maybe buy back some months and get you across the finish line before that becomes taxable, that could be a huge, huge win for us if we're going for the long-term forgiveness. It's always going to be tax-free if you're going for the public service loan forgiveness program, but if we're looking at any of those other programs, just good information to know. Okay, so hopefully this has been helpful, kind of summary of everything that's going on for you guys, and feel free to reach out. We're happy to come alongside you, and if there's other friends or families, we ask that you share this video with them so that they can be informed on this stuff and not paying any extra to the Department of Ed than we need to. And so we'd be happy to come alongside you in your student loan journey. So thanks again for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.